As long as I've had this YouTube channel, Stranger Things has been around. It started 2 years before my youngest child was born, and she's now in the first grade. And as of last night, it has come to an end. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I'd love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you ultimately think of the Stranger Things finale, final season, and the show in general? This will be a spoiler review. I'm assuming anyone that would want to watch a review of a finale of a show has already watched the show. So if you haven't seen the finale yet, go watch it. This isn't to encourage you to watch it, it's to discuss it afterwards. You have been warned. And let's get started. To quickly recap my feelings on Stranger Things 5 thus far, I was a really big fan of Volume 1. I was mixed and underwhelmed on Volume 2, where I just felt there was a lack of stakes and urgency and way too much pausing to talk when the story really needed to be progressing forward, or where there was a danger, and it just kind of let the air, the tension, the suspense out of the room. And when it comes to the finale, I thought it was good. There was a lot of things in there that were pretty great, pretty amazing, emotionally satisfying, great spectacle. It didn't do anything that kind of derailed the finale for me or left me kind of with a bad taste in my mouth leaving the show or anything like that. But it was also a fairly safe and straightforward finale of they don't face as many obstacles as maybe they should have, and kind of we tied everything up in a nice little bow in a way that felt very kind of straight line, the way that it played out. And I think there were a few things in there that pretty easily could have been better or handled differently to be more satisfying or more earned. So it was good. I dug it. Certainly a more satisfying experience with kind of better sequences than what we got in Volume 2. I'm not putting it in the category of like all-time great finales or anything like that. So let's kind of unpack the different pieces to everything I said there. Right off the bat, this episode, during the action, the first 60% of it, did a much better job with urgency, conflict, stakes, and setbacks, specifically incorporating in the military being like right on their tail. They're being hunted down by the military that knows where they're at on each different front. There's someone coming after them, and so their plans keep getting messed up in multiple different ways. So even their simple plan of like, this is going to drop down and the tower will be right here, and that doesn't go so well. And so the tower gets shaken up. And when we are heading in, preparing to try and figure out how we're going to do our little, so we start doing our Vecna mind games, and they have victory. And then there's immediate setback where, okay, Vecna has to change his strategy. So figures, what do I need to do? He uses his powers to manipulate Hopper and mess with his mind, put doubt in his head, confuse him, and cause Hopper to ruin the mission. And so you have our plan. It's kind of working. It's not easy, but it's kind of working. Uh-oh, we got a big problem here. And this is followed immediately by military then showing up. So once again, not only are we in big trouble because of Vecna screwing things up, now also we have military. And so it just, you felt the things aren't quite going according to plan. And that sense of like, whoa, uh-oh, oh crap. That's what was missing. That feeling of every time you win, you also lose. And we got to keep pivoting. We got to keep changing everything. That's what was missing from Volume 2. And they got it back here. And so kind of a big enhancement there. Likewise, even before we get to our final finale, we already start to have losses. I mean, the person we kill off is the person that was nobody's favorite, that is quite literally the person from, I guess, prior to Volume 2, what was the most hated episode of the show, the butt end of jokes. The person they kill off is the one that is like very easy to like kill off without stepping on any toes and giving her a little bit of like closure or something in there. Like, okay. But even in that, you get, some nice hopper action, everything like that. Throwing a grenade at a helicopter. Some nice things in here with a victory, but also with a setback. And then something very satisfying of just that douchebag soldier being forced to shoot himself in the head after everything that he just did. Nice little touch for everything. 2025 is over. And in 2025, I tried to get in much better shape. And a big part of that was simply eating better. Trying to get lots of protein, eating good carbs and fats, and getting plenty of nutrients. But in the morning, I don't have an appetite for a big hearty meal, and I want to get my day started. I don't have time to prep and cook a meal. Enter the perfect solution, Huel Ready to Drink Black Edition. It's got 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, slow release carbs, a complete meal in one bottle. That's huge for me because it's a meal's worth of macros and nutrients all in one bottle that is ready to drink. It tastes good with no weird aftertaste or strange texture to it. My personal favorite is the iced coffee and the iced latte. But I got the variety pack, which had vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, banana, and I enjoyed all of them. I would order more of them. They've also added some new flavors like chocolate peanut butter. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm very interested to try it. I'm pretty sure that I will really enjoy it. So I recommend checking out that variety pack to figure out what your favorite flavor is. Each bottle is under $5, and when you're getting a meal's worth of macros and it's ready to drink, it's a great way to start your day. Grab Huel today with my exclusive offer of 15% off orders of $50 or more with code Sean Chandler at Huel.com/Sean Chandler. New customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. All that said, on the positive side of we're adding stakes and urgency, on the front of the kids that are going, the other world, they get there, and then they take like a leisurely stroll to try and get to Vecna's palace, Mind Flare Palace. And it's like, we're fighting over here with machine guns, battling this, desperately running through the woods to get to the cave, to get away from Vecna. How are we going to do with all of this? And then on the other side, they're like, hey man, just wanted to tell you, and we're pausing to talk again. This, despite it doing a much better job with the urgency, the danger, layered conflict, still had the problem of in the middle of the world's about to end, this thing's going down. Hey man, I just wanted to tell you. Oh, hey, I got to tell you, sorry. I was just feeling this is life or death. We are we're interstellar travelers, interdimensional space travelers, and we're just walking. And at the end, we're like, uh-oh, things are going down. Then they start to pick up the pace a little bit, but it's only at that point in time, which they literally don't even know if Vecna's dead. They don't know anything. They've lost communication, and they're just strolling along. Come on now, what is the deal with the lack of urgency from the characters themselves? And there's always time for one more monologue. We gotta fight. We gotta do this. This is my turn to give a speech now. Both Hopper and Eleven have time to give a speech to the other person about what they believe and how they feel about the other. Hey, some of that, some of it's okay. But everybody has a speech, a conversation in the middle of the urgency. All right, maybe we could balance that out a little bit. On the little kid front, kind of nice to Holly actually kind of having her own little mini arc of being afraid and then being the person that has to take charge. Kind of a late edition character. I mean, obviously she's been around in a sense on the show, but late edition as an important part of the show, and having her own little arc, and then amongst the kids taking leadership, and then that's set up, of course, for the final season or final scene of the show, where the continuation of all of this, of the kids and their nerds and Dungeons and Dragons, and have a little something there. And so this is kind of nice, and then finding that way to get Max, 11, 8 there to set them in motion, but then the plan falls apart as we talked about. they're sucked out of that world. And so then Holly kind of has to take the lead and follow that path that she was on before. Some nice stuff. That's kind of nice. Because Vecna's origin is something worth discussing. And I think the problem with this origin, like kind of liking the idea of like some sort of like, it keeps going deeper. There's always a little bit more. And the nature of this always is more you could explore. But having this situation where there's a guy with a briefcase with, I guess, a piece of the mind flare, and it just happened to find the right crazy kid. The immediate, you're like, that's a whole story in of itself. That's a whole adventure of like, okay, now we answered questions about Henry. Now we kind of understand how this came about for him with the powers and the extreme crazy. Okay. Who's this guy? What's going on here? Like, what's the rest of it? What's going on here? And maybe that's the whole plan of like, all right, we'll set this little piece over here and this little piece over here and this little piece over here to have our spin-offs or our books or whatever they might do with this. But it's like raises so many questions of backstory and other adventures to get to that moment where there's a guy in a cave where a Boy Scout is at with the mind flare, and he has all this information, this stuff. For him to know all of that, something happened. What is that? So, curious if how intentional that was to set something up, or how intentional it was just to be like, give you just a taste of something that makes your mind go, whoa, who, what, where, what, huh? This thing does keep going on forever and ever. And even likewise, if you're trying to set up some path of, all right, we're done. What about 10 years from now when we want to do the revival? We want to do boost everything, and so our kids are now 35 and have their own kids, and 11 comes back or whatever they do, and so you just leave the little teases of there's other paths to the mind flare. There's whatever set this in motion. There was something before the Upside Down, before Vecna, Henry. There was something before. There was a bridge. Whatever that is, however the thing that got us to the... Okay. Of course, our final boss fight. I'd say the final boss fights for me, was 2/3, 3/4 satisfying. When I say that, I literally mean it felt like it was 2/3 of a satisfying final battle. It got to the end where we went, Vecna, he's impaled. Mind flare monster thing falls down. And at that point in time, I was like, obviously it's not done. It was a little bit too quick. It was a little bit too easy. So how's he going to come back? And even as we're kind of watching it, and we're like, there's an hour left. Like, what's going on here? Okay, there's got to be something else happening. And so they pull Holly out, and and the cloud comes out. And in the room, the family's like, I bet what's going to happen is that it's going to come out of the mouth and go into Vecna's body. And then Vecna is going to like revive a little bit, and we're going to rally and have one more little like surprise fight. Like they start to get the kids out. They're very vulnerable, and we're trying to help them. And then Vecna's like starts nope, that didn't happen. So it felt like when you do these big final battles, it's like overwhelming odds. How could we ever beat this? It's going to destroy us. Oh, here comes 11. So we're fighting back, and they realize, all right, we can hurt it, and so she can hurt. Okay, and you figure out the strategy, and so our heroes start to win. They were underdogs. They start to win. They figure something out. They think they've won. Uh-oh. Villain rallies, has one final pushback, one final twist, turn, and then our heroes ultimately, their wits, their clever, their power of friendship is victorious. But it was missing that last little piece, so it just felt like, oh no, how are we going to defeat this? Levin showed up, we're good. A little bit too easy. Did I like what they did? The idea of they went in there with a bunch of firepower, Molotov cocktail bombs, and 11 is in there, and so the connection there, Okay, gotcha. Like, this makes sense of like, do I think that machine guns and stuff in and of itself could destroy that creature? No, but could they hurt it, distract it? And so 11, who is quite more powerful now and who did a good job against him last time, but lost, but did quite well in a world or situation where he is battling with his other stuff. She's stronger, been training, all this other things are happening. Okay. Yeah, like I'm tracking. Like I'm tracking of how they could overcome that, and everyone gets involved. The whole Nancy as Rambo is so funny to me. There's a certain side to it that's kind of amusing, that all along the way they've given Nancy shotguns and stuff, and so you kind of take like, you know, the skinny suburban girl and give her the shotgun. They've taken it so far by this point in time where she's like literally like running around with a machine gun and like, I've got this handled, I'll be the bait. And she's still just as skinny as ever. 9 years later, it's not like she's like, I'm going to hit the gym and I'm going to Linda Hamilton Terminator 2 this deal if I'm going to be Rambo. No, she still has a machine gun that's bigger than her shooting at the mind flare. Something amusing about that. But like even the, you know, finding a way to use, you know, we've got Molotov cocktail bombs, gasoline bombs, and the flare gun. All of a sudden, giving Mike the flare gun is actually quite helpful and useful. So all of that was really good. Like I dug it. It felt like it was 2/3 of what the sequence should have been. And it's not like they ran out of runtime. And if my choice was 5 more minutes of villain rallies, we come back and we defeat him, and we take 5 minutes off the epilogue, I'd be okay with that. The epilogue, there's a, like, you want to have that epilogue after this journey. It's worth a long epilogue, but you could cut 5 minutes out of that if it meant the final battle was a little bit bigger, more dramatic, a little bit more back and forth in it. Okay, the thing that to me was the most controversial, and I would assume would be the sticking point or whatever, the boldest choice they made was 11th finale. And to me, I think I know some people calling them cowards by doing the cop-out with the Mike's theory at the end was a cop-out to try to both kill off a character without killing off the character. I don't know. I feel like you kind of needed something. Like I get not wanting to be ambiguous. I get that. But to me, the plot point of having Hopper lose 2 daughters in childhood and framing that as you have to let me choose. I'm a grown up now. I need to be allowed to choose. And she dies essentially by suicide. Is not a good final note for a character. For Hopper's, it's not the final note for Hopper's character because obviously they show him processing, moving on. But like that's 11 didn't need to die, and it wasn't 11 ran in to like use her forces to like hold something so she'd sacrifice so everyone can get out. She would have been committing suicide in order to prevent a life of her being chased down or something like that. Like it's framed in a manner to where the same reason everyone else is, I don't buy this. Everyone around her is like, you don't have to do this. Like we can just keep fighting. We can keep running. Everyone else sees a different solution, but her. So it as an audience member, I don't see her answer as the only answer. I get some of the logic of it. Like, we got to end this, and so I got to die because they're trying to get my blood. Okay, I follow the logic. But also, you could run, and if they're ever getting close to arresting you, you just keep a gun in your pocket and shoot yourself in the head. Like, you wait until the moment of, we've lost. And I don't feel like this was what this was. And so, in particular, you're watching the show, and they're like, wow, we did it. We're victorious. We got all the kids. We're going to get out of here. We're going to drive through the portal that goes into the military base and just drive back to our homes and have a cake and shoot off fireworks. Like, every audience member is watching this like, right, you're going to drive out of the portal and the police are going to be there. Like, what are we doing? Like, everybody knows that. So it's not as if there wasn't like Like they just set up a scenario where they were going to drive right into the military. And so it's like, oh no, she's been caught. She has to make her choice now. Which felt, if you're going to do this, she has to choose. I think you need to earn that moment a whole lot more. It needs to feel like, how did the military know they were there? As opposed to, of course the military would find out they were there. You stormed through their base to drive into the portal. Where, like, do you think they're not going to be on the lookout for you? And so building that as the moment of the, she's got to do it because they're right there, like forcing her hand. Like, and to me, it's ultimately like in a context of Hopper. That to me is the issue. And presenting it's almost presented as a Marlin and Finding Nemo thing of like, well, because he lost. I mean, it is that arc. That's literally, it's the Finding Nemo is Hopper's arc in this season. He lost his family before, and so he's so desperately trying to protect the one that he has now, and he can't let her go. And so the big arc is like, you got to trust me and you got to let me go. But it's not basic parenting. It's, I'm going to kill myself so that these other people aren't chasing me anymore. That's not quite the same thing. That's not quite the same thing as Finding Nemo. Like, you know, it's understandable to like be like, I think we should keep fighting rather than you choosing to stand in something destroying you. Those aren't quite the same thing. That is a category of suicide. So yeah, I think you needed the bookend of an alternative theory, and I was pretty sure that's where they were going because you've established in the episode misdirect, people seeing something that's not there. In the episode, you do that. So you do it in a context where it's like, does that really need to happen? Like, couldn't you just put the kids in the other room, like whatever, like. And so you do something that it's like they're standing 5 feet away from Vecna to see this. And you go, putting it right in your memory of something so that at the end of the episode you do, ha, remember that thing we showed you? Still works. You can still do that. And so I was assuming, like, you've established all these different powers, all these different things that they can do. There's probably some trick up their sleeve for what they're doing here. As for our epilogue, generally speaking, just like a real nice, sweet send-off that kind of, with something like this, you've been on such a journey, and when it is a coming-of-age story, you're literally watching them go from little tweens to now adults. Or for the older cast, or for the older young cast, they were basically launching in adulthood in the first couple of seasons, and now they're kind of becoming like, who are they becoming? You know, the run of the show is mostly that transition period, and so you kind of, who have they turned into? What does that look like for each of them? And you know, it was always kind of a journey of, you know, figuring yourself who you are out and what do you want, and so having a little final conversation of them sitting around that is pretty relatable for anybody that's over 25. That feeling of, at some point in time, you kind of have friends that you go in different directions, and you're still friends with them and you still get together, but it changes and dynamics are new and you have new friends, and it's like you can never go back. I when I was in college, I had someone talking about the way they described it was like Frodo going back to the Shire. After you've lived there somewhere, and you're a child there, and you go off to college, and you come back, and the place is the same, but you're different. And with all of you, you kind of go off, and you have your different lives, college, jobs, whatever you do, and you come back together, and you meet up a couple of years after college, and you're back in this place. We're all in the same place, and it's kind of the same here, but every one of us is kind of different. And you can never just repackage what the past was. So just like good emotional send-off, seeing how Dustin continues to honor Eddie's legacy. Of course, finding a way to like you take the thing that ultimately meant the most to Hopper, and at the same time, you give him that which he had lost at the beginning of the show, which kind of reclaiming throughout this whole, reclaiming everything that he'd lost prior to the show is kind of his journey on this, his dignity, his purpose, and family in a couple different ways. And so just real nice that the kind of the end to it that you kind of wanted, those people that, you from the beginning you saw some little spark there, and this is probably going to go somewhere, and then it does. So that's just like a nice way to end things for them. And then I don't know if I'm missing any of our big closers who got with something to unpack on. But then the final scene of, like I said, I already talked about this a little bit. I think you kind of needed to have some glimmer of hope with 11, because I just think just actually killing her off by essentially suicide, framing it as it's Marlin's arc. It's Finding Nemo. Parents got to learn to let go. Let your kids die so that their life isn't difficult. That's a weird thing, but it basically, the way that they're kind of playing it out is that they did the ending of season 1, Fake 11's death, except the full version of it. There's no traces. There's no lingering, like, for this mission for this to work, it can't be she's hiding in a cabin over there in town. It's that everyone thinks she's gone and she disappears. Just disappears to the other side of the world, to where no one is looking for her, no one knows to look for her, and all of her friends are grieving, selling the lie, because they too have been lied to. It's the extreme version of it, but it's the same thing they did at the end of season 1. I think you have to do that. Like, I think that would be such a gross plot line to do that to Hopper as a lesson for him. Learn to let go, buddy. As a act of allowing agency, like death by suicide, because it wasn't it wasn't an actual classical sacrifice. I'm gonna hold this up with my power so you guys can get through. Oh, it got me. It's not that. It was, I don't want to be chased by them, therefore I'm going to die. It was a decision she made, like whether she was going to do it or not. At what point in time she decided to do this, we don't know, but she was going to die, choose to die, suicide. So anyway, I'm lingering on that. And then like the final little note of the other kids kind of coming in, and Holly's leading Dungeons and Dragons, and Friendships of Born is made out of it. It's satisfying. I actually thought this video was gonna be like 10 minutes long, and turns out it's almost 30 minutes long. Whenever I start doing these breakdown, walkthrough, spoiler reviews, they always go so much longer than I mean for them to go, and that happened once again today. It was good. It ultimately was emotionally satisfying. I don't think it was as great as it could have been. Some of that is I don't think they did enough heavy lifting the last couple episodes to set up the best version of the finale. Some of that is I think there's a couple things they could have, adjust the faders a little bit more epic battle, a little bit less walking and talking, a little bit less epilogue. Couple things like that, and a couple choices that I think needed to be, setting up 11's ultimate choice differently to make it feel a bit more earned. But, it was a good finale. It is a good finale, and it certainly helped to get the season back on track, that it ended much stronger than the setup for the end. Let me know your thoughts down below. We're going to have a seasons ranking very soon. I don't know, tomorrow, Saturday. And I hope to do a character ranking, but I'm leaving town tomorrow, so I'm not sure exactly when that will be, but so it will probably have to be next week, but which I wish it could be much sooner, since we're all trying to talk about Stranger Things this weekend, but I just don't know how I can get that recorded while I'm in it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hey, we're in a new year. Happy New Year, and keep talking movies and TV way too much in 2026.